And the interesting thing is, I mean, and the beautiful thing is that everybody's a storyteller. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody out there can tell a story because everyone's got an imagination. They can tell a story, and it's really nice when someone who's got this technology, hardware, software, and they've got this imagination, they are able to pick up a camera, record something, and get it out there. And it's quite satisfying. Imagine having that hobby, being able to do it like that, and just picking your phone out your pocket and just being able to do your hobby there and then. I think that's beautiful.
Today we're going to be talking about how to get video right for marketing. As always, here on the Aarif Laljee Digital Marketing Podcast, we always aim to get industry experts in who can give us the benefit of their knowledge and experience to tell us about the subject matter at hand. So without further ado, let's introduce today's guest.
Strategy, market research, email, marketing plan, display ads, PPC, content, social media, social ads, SEO. Welcome to the Aarif Laljee Digital Marketing Podcast.
Okay, hello and welcome to Aarif Laljee, our video expert. He's going to be telling us how to get video right for marketing. Hello and welcome.
How's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. And for those of you who are just wondering, this is no coincidence. We've both got the same surname. I know Aarif very well. He's obviously my brother.
Younger brother.
Yeah. He does. People do say older sometimes, but yeah, we'll park that. You're obviously academic fellow at the University of Salford. You've been at University of Salford for a while now, haven't you?
Yes. Started in 2005.
God,
so it's my 17th year. I mean, I still think 2005 was like 5 years ago, you know, when you get like our age, you think, oh yeah, 1990 is about 15 years ago. But when you look at it, you think, wow, yeah, 2005 was like 17 years ago. Love it, it's great.
You're based in Media City now, aren't you?
Yeah, we're the only university at Media City. And yeah, we've been there for like 10 years now. The actual campus is a proper campus. It's growing and it's great. And the students love it, the staff love it.
It's a nice environment on Media City, and it's great to be around. I always try to play it cool. Do you like if you see a celebrity or something? But then again, at the end of the day, you are in professional mode when you're at work, aren't you? So even when we've done like BBC work, you're kind of in awe of them, but because you're there to do a job, you're just focused. What does academic fellow mean in terms of film production?
Well, I'm part of the academic team, and I do lecture. But there are lecturers as well who work at the university who are maybe more responsible for, a bit more research into the actual, film industry, where academic fellow, that research part is not really part of their job. But yeah, academic fellow is pretty much like a lecturer's role.
So pretty much like since YouTube's been out and video platforms have been out, you've been really interested in them. I remember then, I think early 2000s actually, probably 2003, 2004, something like that. You were really into videos on this new platform called YouTube, and you did a couple of what I call famous videos. I don't know if they're out there, but I know you did this Michael Schumacher video with in the background. They had the theme, Frank Sinatra, My Way. And then there was a scene out of the Martin Scorsese film Casino, and you kind of dubbed that into like a Sesame Street sketch, wasn't it? And it was like both of them were massive, weren't they? I mean, even by today's standards, they were massive. I mean, what did they have? Like they had hundreds of thousands of views. I'm sure they did
a couple of million actually. There was 2 million views at the time, and yeah, it was just a great time because you could be really creative. Do you know what I mean? Because of this new platform, YouTube, and you can like, wow, I can download, Martin Scorsese, the audio from it, and then, do lip sync to a Sesame Street sketch and make it, just to see people's reactions to it was the best bit. Just see how they'd be laughing, and you'd literally be spending like a week on it, like a full week. I'd finish work, go into my bedroom, just edit all night for a full week, just for that 2-minute video, just for people's reaction. And that was the great thing, because you could be really creative with it at that time.
I mean, I suppose me trying to be a bit of a technical, trying to bring it back to marketing, but it is what it is then. It was still all about engagement.
When it first came out, you had all these millions of videos to play with. It was just a great time, to be, if you're like a video editor or a creator, because it just changed the game pretty much overnight, which we kind of took full advantage of it.
I could actually speak about YouTube for quite a while, but yeah, I know nowadays you like making documentaries, writing the script and doing stuff, and I've seen a couple of snippets, and it's like really good. And have you entered them into like film festivals and stuff like that? I mean,
Yeah, once the documentaries are complete, once they've like finished, then yeah, they'll be going to film festivals. They'll be doing the festival run, and hopefully pick up a few awards or a few nominees, a few shortlists, and hopefully just get the awareness out for these documentaries as well, because some of them are quite powerful.
But obviously, these ones aren't just you finish your work, coming home and editing overnight. These are like big productions. I mean, involving scripts, people, actors. I mean, there's not just you involved, is there?
Yeah, no, it's a big crew. It's we've got a big crew, colleagues as well. I'm working with film production colleagues, students. Obviously, it's a great opportunity for everyone because I get to work with great students, and the students get to work on projects which will only make them better filmmakers as well. So it is a massive crew. It's about 10 to 15 people working on a project.
Well, I was going to say, I've just put your. I mean, for those of you who are watching on YouTube, I've just put your Instagram on there, which is obviously at Aarif. So at AARIF.film FILM. So at Aarif.film. So and you put your snippets up, not snippets, but like if you're on a shoot, you take some pictures, or if you're with
BTS,
colleagues, if you're with the students, you put quite a lot of stuff there. What was that again? Was that BTS?
Yes, BTS, behind the
What
scenes.
is it? Behind the scenes. Oh, right. I call it behind the sines. I don't think I'm down enough yet to call it BTS. I was still impressed when you told me about B-roll. Yeah, Kaz, don't worry. We'll put some B-roll in the back of that. So even when I'm talking to clients now, they'll say, "Oh, what do you do?" I'll say, "Oh no, we just put some B-roll in there." And I kind of, but I suppose I want to get into the talking points of today and obviously get some value for our guests. And so I suppose one of the first talking points is, I mean, we've touched on it a little bit. We've talked about the technology of, I suppose we've only just talked about YouTube, but how would you say video production has changed over the last 20 years? Like I say 2003, so about 20 years anyway, aren't we? Anything major that you would like to mention or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's like obvious stuff, really. The biggest thing I would say is the technology and accessibility to, making a film or video production. I mean, Kaz, and I know our kids, they're on YouTube all the time. They're actually making YouTube videos, and they're not like, and they're quite confident with it, and they're just doing it on their phones or their iPads. 20 years ago, we didn't really have mobile phones like we do now, or even iPads or any devices, like any handheld devices, really that accessible that can record video. But now, our 8 and 10, 9-year-olds are doing it. And that's what's changed, I think, especially because 20 years ago, you wouldn't get children making film. And it's not just about children doing it. It's just about being able to. You just switch it on, camera, record, and they know what they're doing now. And I think it's just the accessibility to it, the technology, not just the hardware, software as well. Yeah. Look how easy it is to edit a video now. You can do it in your phone. Download a free app, you can edit a video and upload it within, you can link it to YouTube account and it'll be uploaded within a minute. It doesn't matter what you make. And the interesting thing is, I mean, and the beautiful thing is that everybody's a storyteller. Anybody out there can tell a story because everyone's got an imagination. They can tell a story, and it's really nice when someone who's got this technology, hardware, software, and they've got this imagination, they are able to pick up a camera, record something, and get it out there. And it's quite satisfying. It's like a hobby, imagine having that hobby, being able to do it like that, and just picking your phone out your pocket and just being able to do your hobby there and then. I think that's beautiful, and that's what's changed, I think, over the last 20 years.
So the two big things is basically the technology and the access to technology. And I think you're exactly right. I mean, you talk about there's software out there that's probably worth thousands of pounds, but there's also software, like you said, I can download on my phone in literally seconds. I can use it and I can edit my video. Yeah, you could make an argument about the adverts that you get on it and stuff, but the idea, the concept exists. Some of them, I think some of the apps I've bought, I paid like £2 for. Yeah. And these days, even the platforms are doing it for you. Like your Instagrams and stuff, they do it themselves, add the filters. But that's the two biggest things. So technology and the access to the technology.
Yeah. I mean, another thing, like if you're just thinking about like green screen technology, like let's say green screen technology 20 years ago, you'd be like, oh, green screen technology, it's very advanced, and only used in Hollywood and, Star Wars and this, But like, it is a simple technology. Like now, you just get a green cloth, and
I've literally got one behind me.
And you can just buy it Amazon Prime, get it delivered in like the same day. put
Yeah.
green screen up, camera
That's
up,
it.
and you've
Yeah.
got and that sort of technology as well. That looked to be so advanced maybe 20 years ago. Is so
Yeah.
accessible now, and software can easily, handle that workflow, that green screen workflow, with just a couple of clicks of a button, even on your phone, and you're away. And I just think that the creativity that is available through that, you can
Yeah.
actually get what's in your mind onto a computer screen within like minutes. And
Yeah.
I think it really is a really good time for creatives, and there's so many opportunities out there. There are so many
Yeah.
opportunities out there.
I mean, I suppose just on the green screen thing. I mean, I was almost disappointed. Like, do you know when I used to, or when I watched Sky Sports on Match of the Day or something, I used to think, well, them studios are really good. I'm talking like 5-10 years ago, and I suppose in the last few years I've understood it more. Basically, all them studios are really good. And then you'd see like Rio Ferdinand or Gary Lineker or someone take a picture, a selfie, and I'm like, what's all this greenness? I thought this was a studio. And then
Yeah.
I think BBC started with the BTS. So
Yes.
yeah, BBC started with this behind the scenes footage. I think it was for I think where I really appreciated it was in the Olympics at Tokyo.
I knew you were going to
And
say that.
yeah, I think yeah, and they did that thing, didn't they? They showed us like
Yeah.
how they were
Before.
sat, where they were sat, and you were like, and
Yeah.
like when I was first watching, I was thinking, which part of that's green screen? And when they did the BTS footage, you were like, wow, that's really impressive. And it was like
Really
the whole
impressive.
thing was, but I think the cleverness is where certain parts are green screen and certain parts aren't.
Yeah.
And
It's
then you can't tell anymore, can you? I mean, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, because the technology is so good now. The technology is so good, and people are watching the Olympics like in 4K on these massive screens, and they still can't tell the difference. And usually, if it's green screen, you can see, like, if you're on a Zoom call and someone's green screen, you can usually see, little
Yeah,
edges.
yeah.
But the technology they use now at broadcast level is so good that it's so good that you can't even tell, and that's the illusion that they want to create. And I mean, you can basically be anywhere in the world now if you want. Like
Yeah.
the Olympics, they were just in a studio in Salford when they were at
Yeah. So see,
visual.
when I found that out, I was almost disappointed. I thought they was in some fancy location, on location. And I was like, but yeah, that technology really has advanced, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's great, and it will keep advancing. It will keep advancing, like you said.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to, I suppose, planning a shoot. So I mean, if we're thinking about people who are listening to this and they're thinking, right, I want to go doing a video shoot. Might be for your business, might be for a hobby, like you said. It might be for your own business, might be brand building, could be anything, or maybe just for fun, maybe taking the kids out or something. But what sort of planning do you need to do? And when I'm talking about planning, I'm talking about like scripts and deciding what shoot you shoot and stuff, because there's like a finite amount of time that you have, so you need to have planned it. So in terms of that, I mean, we'll come on to the like on location later on, but what planning can people listening or watching do in terms of scripts and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a massive area of the filmmaking process. Pre-production, we call it. Before you start production, we need to know what we're going to shoot, why we're shooting, where we're going to shoot, how we're going to shoot it. So all these questions you need to answer before you actually start shooting, because otherwise you're just going to be improvising on set, and it will affect your final production. It'll affect the quality. So you just want to be prepared, and like anything, like anything you do in life, you want to be prepared as much as possible. So let's say, for example, you're doing a few months ago, I was doing some commercial stuff for a dentist local to me here. So I got a call. He's like, "Oh, can you come and do some interviews?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool, I can do that." And then I said, "Okay, I need to know where I'm shooting. Yeah, so can I come and do a location recce?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, cool." So I went there, and I'm trying to. And first thing I want to look at is, where am I going to park? Yeah.
Okay.
Just where am I going to park? Because the dentist is there. There's a local car park, but they had a car park just at the back. So because I'm going to be carrying kit, right, on the actual day. So where to park, and then how to get up there to the stairs. Yep, found that. And then just scanning the room, doing a proper location recce, so I can visualize where I'm going to place the people I'm interviewing, where I'm going to place the camera, the light. So I'm scoping this out, taking pictures, making enough the light temperatures. Where the light's coming through the windows, what lights are being used, or what practical lights are being used in the dentist, and then that helps me plan for what kit I can bring to then further enhance this interview. So that's like the technical aspects. And you know, this location recce would probably last me about half an hour to an hour, and I'd ask and I'd be like scanning everything, the sound, the traffic going past the window, is that going to impact the interview?
Oh, yeah.
Is the wooden floor going to impact the interview? Where am I going to be sitting?
Gosh.
Everything like that, you know. So I would actually making notes, and I'd start making, I'd start producing a document for the pre-production kind of process.
Okay.
And then obviously you've like the script, obviously, you know, and then obviously you work with the client with that, you know, what questions do you want to ask?
Oh, right. Okay.
And how you want to do it, and how you're going to deliver it, and then you make sure that the content isn't repetitive. But then you work with the client in that sense, because obviously they'll know what they want to get out of this video. You know, is it like a testimonial? So you know, you want to make sure you concentrate on one area of the actual business. And yeah, I mean, and then you've got to think about your kit. You know, what kit you're going to bring. You know, you have a kit list. What kit you bring, what kit you might need to hire in, you know, or if you need any other crew as well. So, like, there's lots of that process, and even going back to the location recce itself, you're going to be thinking about health and safety. You know,
risk
fire
assessments.
risk assessment, fire exits. You know, where the local hospital is, where the local police station is, just in case. You know, you just need to make a note of this. And if you're bringing in any crew, like which I do regularly, you know, I'll have a you know, a runner or a second shooter or something. I need to find out where the local bus stops are, local train stations, just if they're making their way, the local tram stops, and I'll make a document of, you know, I produce a document exactly where everything is, so I could just send them that document and say, right, this is where I'm shooting, this is what time you need to be. It's like a call sheet. This is what time you need to be here.
Okay.
Yeah, this is what time we're going to have lunch. Yeah, this is what time we're going to wrap. This is what we're going to do here. And it's a full schedule. So it's really detailed.
It's a
and
lot of information.
Oh yeah, it's loads, and this is just a commercial shoot. If you're working on a short film or a documentary, it might even be more advanced. Yeah. But this is just like a commercial shoot that we were doing, and you know, and then you can then concentrate. I mean, this document is a good few pages. It will be a good few pages, everything there. And then once you've done that, you can then concentrate on the actual shoot itself. So when you turn up that day, you know exactly what to expect. You know exactly. You're not asking any questions. You know, you're set.
Okay, I think we're gonna do at the shoot shortly. But you mentioned scripts before. So where do scripts and storyboards come into this? Like, at what stage are you looking at that?
Yeah, that's also the pre-production process. You would work with the client on the scripts. You know, what questions do they want to ask? What message do they want their what's that message? And you'll know a lot about that with your marketing.
That says, I mean, there's always like an objective. What do we want to get out of this? So obviously you're like, I mean, I'm guessing like you'd have a script based on what they want to get out of it and what information that they want to get across to their target audiences. So okay, so script makes sense. So then how does that lead on to like a storyboard? Because a storyboard is almost like, is it like a comic strip that tells you how things go?
Yeah, it's just like a visual representation of what's going to happen that day. But with like something like a sit-down interview with the camera on, static camera on tripods, and you know, just 2 camera angles. You can storyboard that, obviously, but you know what angles you're going to be doing. You're going to be shooting. So yeah, you could still storyboard that, and if there's any cutaways that you need to shoot, or like B-roll, like you say, you know, you can include that into your storyboard. But with a short film, let's say, or something like scripted, then a storyboard is really important. The director and the cameraman, or the director of photography, they will work with the storyboard because they want the film to look, and how long each scene is going to play out for. You know, is the shot going to be a close-up? Is the shot going to be a wide or a medium close-up? Or, you know, you've got all these different variations. How long is this shot going to last for? Is it going to be, you know, exterior, interior? So the storyboard will help with that visual. And then, you know, when you get on set and you have a storyboard, you have a shot list as well. They tie in together. And then you have a floor plan as well. You know, the floor, they're like the foundations of the actual pre-production
Okay, so well, that's good.
But yeah, just going back to like working with clients, they will actually, before you actually touch base with them, a good client will say, this is the idea we want. Here are some examples of videos that we want.
Right. So you like that when someone has examples of stuff they've
Yeah,
seen.
I like that, and if they don't, I usually ask them. And to be honest, going back to what we just said then about YouTube and being so accessible, they would have seen it anyway. They know what they want.
Yeah, they've been inspired by something. I mean, they've either seen a competitor or they've seen someone on TV and thought, oh, I'd love to do that for my business.
Yeah, they've already seen it on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. So I'm going to look for someone to do it. Oh, I found someone. And they'll approach me or whoever, via email, say, this is what I want to do. Here's some examples. And I love that because it's like, okay, I know kind of what they want. So that's, 40% of the creative idea already done because I've got a really good idea of what they want.
Okay. So, I mean, if you've got, some of the examples I'll be getting, I suppose, in marketing, we're probably doing sort of events, we're doing venues. Do you know when you see these videos of an event, of a highlights reel almost of an event, how do you do that? Does that include storyboarding, or does that or do you just take longer footage and just take snippets out of it? I mean, what's the best way to plan for something like I say you've got a new venue you want to show off, maybe it's a wedding venue, maybe it's an event you've been to and you want to kind of pick out the key highlights, because obviously no one's going to sit there and watch something for an hour or so. They want something short and to the point.
Yeah, so if you're doing something like that, I would say on the day, you're shooting something, get extra coverage of anything, extra coverage that you can then use in this kind of highlights reel. And I know what you mean, like a highlights reel that plays to music. Yeah. Sometimes you shoot in a higher frame rate as well to get that nice, slow motion effect at a higher frame rate. So I would say kind of be as creative as well and just get extra coverage, really nice close-ups, change the lens, use different lenses, use a macro lens to get a bit close up or a few wides, invest in a gimbal, a nice smooth gimbal.
Sorry, you'll have to tell us what's the gimbal?
I like these handheld stabilization. You can.
Oh right, yeah, of course.
But you can get really advanced. Obviously, you can get the selfie sticks, which like about £5, but then these gimbals can go up to like £500 quite easily.
It's the ones where they hold them and they kind of do that.
You can get the
closely.
You can get them, but it's just really stable. It's like it looks like it's floating, So, and if you want to create a show reel, not a show reel, but if you want to create like a highlights video as well, just put yourself in the viewer's shoes. Like, what do they want to see? That they want to see the interesting parts, right? They want to see interesting parts. They want to see a bit of emotion maybe in there as well. And it's all about and the pace of the edit as well comes into it as well, like how you cut it and what music you use to it. So all these elements come together to produce like an interesting piece of work to look at. If it's 10 seconds long, if it's a minute long or 5 minutes long, you can't ever. You've got to keep the viewer engaged.
Absolutely, yeah. See, I mean, that's a big thing for us. I didn't realize how quickly time's pressing on, but I suppose each question we talk about could be 40 minutes within itself at least. Yeah. Okay, so if we look at the next, the next point, I suppose it ties into what you've said. How do you make best use of that time on the day? Because it costs a fortune to have a film crew on. I mean, we've done work before, we'll do work in the future and stuff, and we know that, right? Okay, we've got the person who's doing the film, we've got the runner, you've got the sound person, you've got this, and everyone's there just for that one day. And if it's outdoor and the weather's good and it's just perfect, you can't predict what's going to happen in the future. So how do you make the best use of time and resources on the day? I know you mentioned you have the document that kind of shows you what's doing. Do you just follow that? Is there any, I suppose, tips just to make the best use of time on the day and the resources that you have? Because when we're talking to clients, sometimes we'll say, we'll be on location for 2 days. It's going to cost this much for the crew. And then I'm on a clock as well, because I've told the client, if I suddenly say, sorry, mate, it's not going to be 2 days, it's going to be 4. One, it's not something the client was expecting. And 2, how do I even know the crew's available for them extra 2 days? So how do I make best use of it?
Yeah, this is a tough question because you can't really foresee what's going to happen, on the day. You know, you can plan, you can plan, you can plan, and that helps. Obviously, I would never cut corners on planning.
Okay.
But then on the day when you get there, you know, you've set out as best as possible. But say something happens on the day, like it starts to throw it down, you know, and yeah, you know, that will cause issue. Off there's a fire alarm went off, you know, in the building, or something happened, or you know, so, talent doesn't turn up, or they get nervous and it doesn't happen. You know, you just have to kind of try and deal with it there and then as quick as possible, and try and get the job done as professional as possible. And I mean, every job is different, obviously. So, I mean, I can just talk from experience, but experience does help with those situations. The more experienced you are, and the more work you do, and the more people you work with, and having those right people skills as well. Because obviously, you know, you're there to do a job. You pick up a camera, you record, you get some beautiful footage, but you got to have people skills as well. You got to know how to deal with situations. You got to know how to deal with, you know, if something happens on set. You know, you have to manage that situation because you need to get this job done.
And what was the document that you were talking about before? I think you said where you're planning. Is it the call sheet that you said this is going to happen at this time and that's going to happen then? Do you kind of have that in front of you and make sure that everyone's following it? I mean, is there a way to make sure that's being followed, basically?
Yeah, I mean, you have a call sheet. A call sheet is sent to everyone who's going to be on set as part of the crew, as part of the talent. That gets sent the night before, or you know, a couple of days before. It tells you what time you have to be on set, you know, what the weather's going to be like, where it is, but you know, everyone's phone numbers. It'll tell you a schedule of the day, you know, a brief schedule. But yeah, and that's sent to everyone so that they know what to expect. Everyone knows kind of what's going to happen. But obviously, you can send an actual schedule of works as well, like a production schedule, which can be probably a bit more detailed, and which then everyone, but you know, you'll have that on set. And if you're working on like a short film, you know, you'll have a shot list. You know, it'll be like you'll have like 20 shots, and you'll just take them off.
And whose job is it to make sure that's on track? Like when I've done events with yourself, and we've been doing, I mean, a lot of the things that we do are like when someone's putting an event on, where they're filming, taking photos. And to be honest, if the person's speaking for 40 minutes, then doing Q&A, you are almost on a clock. So I'll be kind of on my phone, like I'll have a plan of what's going on, make sure we've got this. So do you have like do you recommend having an extra person there? Or, because I always just go as the person who's just making sure everything goes according to plan. I suppose, I don't know, how do you recommend is it just up to the director? I mean, do you need that person there?
I mean, it just depends, obviously, you know, who you've got in your crew. If it's a one-man band, you know, like I was for years, you know, one-man band. Obviously, you've got to deal with that all yourself. But if you've got, you know, crew, and you say you're working on a short film, everyone's got the role. Like you said before, the sound is just concentrating on sound. The runners, you know, they've got their jobs to, you know, make cups of tea and, you know, do bits of this and that. And you've got the cinematographer who's just concentrating on the camera and what he's producing the image. The director's directing it all. Then you've got people like the first AD, like the first assistant director, who will be working with the schedule and making sure everything's going to plan.
I think that's what I was thinking.
And so everything kind of in a big team, everyone's got their own, and that's the great thing about like film production is that when you see a crew working on set, one's got their role and they just concentrate on that role, and that's it.
Yeah, I like that, because I mean, I suppose, like you say, it depends on how big your production is. It's like, I mean, I remember when I used to work at Tesco's, I've worked in retail where I've worked in just as me in one small shop, and then I've been part of a team of 700 people in a massive Tesco store, where in the small shop, you're responsible for everything, where in the big shop, you're responsible for just one department or just one area of the store. So I suppose it's almost, I'm not comparing it to Tesco, but I'm just trying to say maybe like on that, like you said, when you were a one-man band, you had to think of everything. But I suppose it just depends on the size of the production, I suppose.
Yeah, it does. Obviously, if you're a one-man band, you're not going to take a massive production, are you? But everyone, you know, I think everyone who's in this industry starts off as a one-person band, a one-man band, you know.
That's okay. I mean, I suppose moving on slightly, well, to, I suppose, the post-filming, can you recommend, I mean, I suppose people who might be listening to this or watching it, there'll be, I suppose, a wide variety of people, but I'm guessing that many of them maybe won't have unlimited resources. They'll have a fine amount of time, maybe at most, maybe have 2 or 3 people, or maybe just one person looking after the editing. And editing is like, until you actually realize how much it is, because initially when you think about it, you think, oh God, it must be hard being on set and doing all this. But I found one of the hardest bits is the editing afterwards. I didn't realize how long the person needs to do it. Because you think, well, okay, we filmed it today, God, the edit will be ready in a couple of days. And when I say this, I'm thinking in the early days when I started it, but really editing is like much later. It's about like when you get a wedding photographer, they'll say, yeah, they'll be ready in 2 or 3 months or in 6 months. And you're like, wow. So I think, I suppose we could confirm that editing is a big part. And while you're on that, is there any editing software that you could suggest for those maybe starting out or in the early days?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, editing is a huge part of the filmmaking process. It's obviously the best part of filmmaking process and the most enjoyable, from my view. Like you just said, I mean, you could finish a film in a couple of weeks. Yeah, the whole film's shot, and the edit can take months. So the editing is the longest part, and obviously you've got to get that right, haven't you? You've got to get the editing right, because otherwise the film won't land. You know, the film looks great on paper, it looks great in the camera, everything's right, the performance is great, but if the edit's bad, even if one element of the edit is
You notice it, don't you?
Yeah. What if the sound's bad, or the color? What if you've not color graded it right, or you know, the pacing's off, or some of the it just doesn't land. It's obviously because you're trying to create this fictional world, right?
Yeah.
Let's say it's a short film, you're trying to create this fictional world. If your audience are watching this film and the edit's not right, then they're out of that. You know, they're just out of that fictional world.
Yeah, if we were going back to sort of things like marketers or businesses would do for themselves, maybe doing, like you say, doing the interview or the testimonial, maybe doing something on the venue or a quick highlights of the event or something. Is there any decent software you'd either recommend, or maybe not recommend, but things that you reckon we can use?
Yeah, obviously, when it comes to mobile devices, I'm not too sure about your editing because I don't really use mobile devices, but I know InShot is one that I know that I've used before.
Yeah, you told me about that, and I still use InShot now for those. I mean, it's not like I wouldn't do a client testimonial and edit it on InShot, but if you've got a quick thing you need to just put onto Instagram or you need to put onto any social platform. So I use InShot. Yeah.
And there's another one on mobile devices actually that one of my colleagues recommended, Stephen Wyatt, Filmic Pro.
Oh, right,
so there's one called Filmic Pro. I'm not sure if you have to pay for it. I think they do a free version, but if you have to pay it, I don't think it's too much. I think it may be like £20 maybe.
Oh, right,
Filmic Pro. So that's on mobile devices, but on the desktop devices, laptops, Macs, PCs, the top of the list is DaVinci Resolve.
Oh, right, okay. You say that with a smile on your face as if you're like, that is the...
Yep, that's the one that I use. I'm a certified trainer in DaVinci Resolve. I teach it at the university. I use it, and it's free.
Really?
It is free.
Wow.
It is absolutely free. They do have a studio version, which is £250. Okay, which
it's not really a lot when you think about it, is it?
But if I tell the viewers now that at the university, majority of our classrooms have the free version in. So I teach the free version. Yeah.
So for what your student...
Yeah, our students make films in the free version. We do have the studio version installed in some of the rooms as well, and it does have a few extra kind of features. But
for what they need to use it, you can use DaVinci. Yeah, so I suppose the hardest part that is probably knowing how to use it, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. But there's so many resources out there. And DaVinci Resolve have an unbelievable training resource for free. So you go, if anyone goes on Google now and types in DaVinci Resolve training, you go to their website and you can actually do that and get certified, be a certified user for free. You do the exam online, you do their PDF. It will take a while. It's about a 600-page PDF. You do that, and then you can use it. And all the videos are up there. The resources, it's unbelievable. They're great.
Right,
I mean,
so that's one that you'd recommend. So you've mentioned InShot and what was it? Filmic Pro for mobile devices, and for desktops, you'd recommend DaVinci Resolve.
DaVinci Resolve mostly because it's a brilliant, but secondary because it's free. I just think it's actually a great editing software. I mean, there are others. Everyone knows about Premiere Pro, and the whole Adobe CC package. Obviously, you have to pay quite a lot for that.
Yeah.
And then you've got Final Cut Pro X on the Apple, which is a couple of £100. And I think you also have iMovie as well on the Mac. But top of the list, DaVinci Resolve.
All right, Okay, that's a good one. And I was expecting you to say it's going to cost thousands, but I mean, I suppose there's no excuse for not using it. And I suppose like we do these days, if you're using any software, even if you know it really well, like I know Facebook ads really well, but sometimes I'm like, oh God, I forgot how to do that. How do I do this? And I'll go into YouTube, quickly YouTube it,
Yeah.
and you can find. And I suppose if I'm sure, not sure. I know for a fact there'll probably be videos on YouTube about DaVinci Resolve and how to do certain elements of it. So that's really good. I suppose coming up to towards the end of our chat, when you're talking about video and film, it's expensive. Even for a business to do the most basic, it involves time, includes resource, so it can be expensive. Is there any like typical mistakes or something that people can, or things they can not do, or basically any tips you'd provide for when it comes to filming?
Now, this again is another tough question. I would say that if you're in that world, okay, and obviously there's a lot of kit, it's expensive, right? It's expensive. So that, like what you just said now about what you asked about editing, DaVinci Resolve. I mean, most people have never heard of DaVinci Resolve. Okay.
No, likewise.
Exactly. Some people would just go, okay, yeah. I mean, if you're a one-person band, if you're just a one person, you think, right, I'm going to start doing this video in. I've got my camera, but I just need to buy editing software. So I'm just going to buy Premiere Pro, which is probably about £25 a month, I think you have to pay. So, number one, tips is do your research. Join like Facebook groups, forums of people, of like groups of within the industry who can advise you and help.
Okay,
Yeah. For example, there's some microphones that I used to use back in the day from a company called Boya. So BOYA.
Yeah.
And those microphones are absolutely amazing. And they're a third of the price of, some of the market leader microphones, but they do exactly the same thing.
Okay.
So do your research into equipment as well, because you can find some really, really good equipment that does exactly the same job as really high-end equipment. So some of the mistakes I would say people do is just, go out and buy the best gear all the time.
Right.
And that has its advantages sometimes, because obviously, if you're buying quality, that will last you longer, right? It'll last you longer. But that's where doing your research comes in, asking people, because these people will give you advice.
Yeah. No, we do it ourselves. I mean, there's marketing groups and like you say, I think, I suppose it's a simple one, but do your research. I suppose that's good.
Yeah, do your research. I would really say that, and ask people, and keep your ear to the ground, and just be really immersed in that industry.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay, that's a really good practical one. So join Facebook groups, do your research, ask questions. So at least then, if you're invested in kit or you're about to embark on something important, at least then you've got a good way of doing it.
Yeah. And with kit as well, Amazon reviews are great.
I think these days I'm probably bought into Amazon probably because of you. Because you told me about Prime once, and I was like, well, what on earth would you pay for it for? I'm already paying for it. And once you use it, you're like, whoa, this is really good. Because like these days, it's not real brand loyalty almost. I go on Amazon, see what I want, see the price, see the reviews, and see when I can get it. I mean, they're the three things I look at, and that's it. And like you say, it's basically what other people have said. So if the reviews are good, it must be good, kind of thing. So what have you got planned now? So what does the rest of 2022 look like for you now?
Yes, it's quite exciting, to be honest. So we're working on 3 documentaries. Two documentaries you've wrapped filming, and we're just editing it now. So the documentaries, you can see them on the website, aarif.uk.
Yep.
And then another documentary that we're halfway through filming, which is quite a powerful documentary. We've got a crew, and I'm working with a colleague of mine, Stephen Wyatt, and a few of the students as well. And that's quite a powerful documentary that we're halfway through shooting at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, are you, like, how does it work in terms? Like, did you say you're gonna submit some of them for like peer review and stuff like that?
Yeah. We'd hopefully, when these docs are finished, we submit them to film festivals. We'll see. I mean, we've got a really good producer, Mike Morris. He's working on these documentaries as well, so he'll know the exact channels to put them through. So yeah, film festivals, and just get some nice content out there, and with a nice story. Maybe it'll give that awareness about the documentary. I mean, one of the documentaries we're shooting is about a Syrian immigrant who 10 years ago, she was in Syria living happily. She had dreams of becoming an Olympian, the first Syrian Olympian, and then overnight her house was bombed and she lost a leg. You know, and
God.
fast forward 10 years later, she's in the UK now. You know, she's gone through all these barriers, mental struggle, physical, financial. She's in the UK now with a prosthetic leg, running marathons, raising money for people in Syria. So we're going to actually shoot her running the Manchester Marathon on May the 22nd. She runs with a prosthetic leg, yeah.
God, that's quite powerful. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see some of your name and lights at some of these film festivals. Obviously, if you get a ticket for Cannes or anything like that, remember me. I don't mind traveling there to be part of the glitz and glamour. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they've got the website arif.uk, which is AARIF.
Yeah, please get in touch.
.uk.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to get in touch, they can do. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on Instagram, it's basically at arif.film. You've got quite a nice following on Instagram, haven't you? You've got a good little following, loads of engagement and stuff. And I think, like say, I mean, I'm going to use that phrase all the time now, by the way. They like their BTS footage, don't they? So behind this. Yeah, don't worry. I'm going to be say that every opportunity I get. But no, people like to see what happens behind the scenes. How much kit have you got? Who's involved? And it's like goes back to the BBC thing we said before about the Olympics. It's interesting because we don't usually get a chance to see it. But yeah, thanks very much for your time, Aarif. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll see how the rest of 2022 pans out.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
You've been watching the Aarif Laljee Digital Marketing Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and remember to subscribe to learn about our latest content.